Physical training, self-defense training, firearms training, situational awareness, and the warrior mindset. Welcome to the Condition 1 podcast. This is a podcast where we'll be talking about Welcome to the Condition 1 podcast. This is a podcast where we'll be talking about being ready. We'll also be speaking to victim survivors of physical encounters, how they dealt with the aftermath, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
And welcome to the Condition 1 podcast by John Riddle. This is your host, John Riddle. I'm here today to talk to Rich Graham. Rich is the owner of Full Spectrum Warrior at Deep Woods Ranch, based in Paisley, Florida, which is in Lake County. It's in the middle of the state of Florida. Before we get going, I would like to thank my sponsor, CTG, the Crestwood Technology Group. Crestwood Technology Group supplies the defense and aviation industries with critical parts and materials designed to keep fleets and systems operational, ready, and safe. Check out CTG at ctgnow.com. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Sure thing. We had a connection a few months ago, and I thought for my first or second podcast, you'd be a perfect guest because of your background and the training that I like to do, and I'd like to help you get out there more also. So, Rich, if you would, can you tell me a little bit, or tell our guests a little bit about yourself and what your background is?
Yeah, no problem. So I, after high school, I decided to join the Navy. I gave up a couple scholarships for architecture, and I was on that route, and just last minute just decided, you know what, the corporate world and the universities and that just wasn't for me. And I just joined the Navy and tried out for the SEAL teams. I made it through the program, went to the SEAL teams for 6 years. I was in the Navy, and then due to a medical condition that I developed overseas, I was no longer able to stay in the Navy. So then I transitioned out, and at that point, I was kind of at one of those crossroads of what was I going to do next? Was I going to go back and try to chase down those scholarships, or where do I go from here to do contract security work? And I just found myself in the position. I moved back to my hometown, and while I was buying time to figure out what I was going to do, I started personal training. And as a personal trainer, it turned out that, you know, I was pretty good at it in relation to how my clients were getting success, and I enjoyed communicating with people in that way and being in that environment. And that led to different people asking me if I could then start giving them some shooting lessons because they heard about my background. And that just turned into something on the side that I did for fun, was doing some firearms training. And as the years went on, I just kind of stayed doing the personal training. And as I was doing that, I started doing a little bit more of the firearms and combatives training. And then a few years later, I just decided, you know what, maybe I'll just do this. What if I treated the shooting portion of this like a real business instead of just doing it for fun? And I made a switch in about 2014 to treat the firearms part of the business full time. And I've just been doing it full time since, and been able to be pretty successful at it. And now we have our own training facility here in Florida, 55 acres with, you know, multiple different shooting ranges on it. And in the process of that, we also had a canine side to it, where we have a nonprofit that does service dogs for special forces families and on disabled veterans. And that's been working really well, and that's been very successful also. So I can't complain. Life worked out good, and you know, a lot of great blessings and opportunities.
Yeah, that's excellent. With your fitness, personal training background, SEAL training background, firearms, and your combatives, how do you see those three intersecting? And if you would, because I know how I feel about it, but just tell me how you feel about it. What comes first, second, or third?
Well, as far as the clients and students, their interest, normally the shooting comes first. Like, that's their priority. People want to run and gun like a Navy SEAL, and they want to know how to be, like a commando or whatever. And I don't blame them for that. I wanted that also. But then you get into, if you look at every single special forces or military pipeline, how it always starts is building, breaking you down, and reinforcing that warrior spirit, that the mindset, the mentality, and that is then backed up with, fitness and being strong and working to learn how to work as a team and all that kind of stuff. Then from there, they go into, like, now you need to know how to fight. And then they go into, and here's different weapons, including a firearm. And we're going to teach you how to use this effectively. So the buildup is there. And what happens a lot of times is clients come because they want to learn how to shoot really well and run a gun in case something happens. Like, how do they protect their family? So normally we start with the firearms training because that's what people are most interested in. Right. But then once they're here, they quickly realize, if you look at the difference between normal warfare between like armies or between like two groups, it's different than the type of warfare that you see on the everyday basis with a civilian. And a civilian, it's much more personalized, and it's much more close proximity. And there's usually something that they want. If they don't want a belonging from you, then it's usually like a personal vendetta, or there's a reason why they're attacking you specifically. So it's usually emotionally charged. So what that does, it takes distance away. You know what I mean? In the battlefield, yes, you might shoot a rocket, a half a mile into another building, and you're like, got him. Maybe you never even go to that building to see, whereas in the civilian world, if someone's robbing you for your wallet, next thing you know, you're sitting there at the ATM and you turn around and there's a dude right there with a gun in your face wanting to take your wallet or wanting you to empty out the ATM machine. Those are two totally different environments and situations. And then the difference also is in military warfare, you have teams of people, you have technology, you have quick reactionary forces, you have intelligence packages. Many cases, hopefully you're choosing the place of the fight. You know what I mean? So you're ready. Your mind is ready. Like when you were working on the SWAT teams, when you throw on your gear and you're walking out the door, you're ready for something to happen. Where in the civilian world, you're not ready. The predator's picking the time and place. So you know what I mean? So you weren't anticipating that this was going to happen right now. And then maybe you have a pocket knife, maybe you have a gun, maybe you have an extra magazine, but you might not have, 16 of your buddies there with you. If you had 16 buddies, they probably wouldn't have tried to rob you. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
So in that, the environment changes. So now what happens is, in my opinion, for you to be able to utilize a firearm in self-defense, something really extreme must have happened first for you to legally be justified to pull your pistol out. So how do you handle that situation first? And in many times you might find yourself, having to fight before you can get to your pistol. So then it brings it, if things are going to be so close proximity and you only have limited ammunition, then you need to know how to fight. So we learn how to shoot, then we back that up with learning how to fight. Well, if you're going to be a good fighter, you have to be strong. If you want to be a good fighter, you got to last longer than 30 seconds. So to be strong and have endurance, then you have to have a fitness and strength training program, maybe a mobility program as well. And then to back that up, you should probably have a good health and diet program, you know what I mean, that supports the fitness that you're doing. And then with all of that, that needs to be reinforced with the mentality, the personal development, and all that kind of stuff. So how it should go is from personal development up the other way, but the reality is from my standpoint, when I'm dealing with the students and clients, normally it goes the other way. They come for the firearms training and I'm like, hey, now that you're here, and we have a discussion, we kind of like open their eyes up a little bit about stuff and just get that conversation going. Then we reverse engineer it and start working backwards to fill in the gaps where they're needed.
That's fantastic. I'm with you 100% on everything you said. I believe that people, you need to be mentally, physically capable. Your awareness has to be out there. So I'm 100% on board with you on that. And within your training programs, I've noticed you emphasize leadership also. In your opinion, how is that important to what you do or what you teach?
I think it's important from the standpoint of, if you're in a really bad situation, someone has to take charge. Someone has to be cool. Someone has to, when everyone starts to panic, people are looking for someone to give them guidance. And what you'll see is when we watch all this stuff with the active shooter attacks and stuff like that, the first person who runs, like when we do the training and we do like the scenario based training and we have the bad guys come in and do the active shooter stuff, the first person who freaks out and runs, half the people just follow them. Yeah, not because they know where they're going. They go, oh my God, I have no idea what to do. They see someone moving and they go, well, I know personally, I have no idea what the hell's going on. That person's moving. They must know something I don't know. I'm going to follow them. And half the class, when we first do it, always run straight into the bad guy. You know what I mean? And they just follow what someone else did. So in times when people are freaking out, you can't make good decision making when you're in panic mode. So you need someone to be there to hold the resolve, to keep a clear mind and go, all right, guys, I know this is really scary. This is what we're going to do, and formulate a game plan. Even if it's not the perfect game plan, it's a game plan that you can then work on and keep a cool head and make changes as you go. But so that's an important aspect of it. Another important aspect of it is, I don't want to train people just to be, violent muscle heads that just want to go out and smash everything. I'm trying to empower people, not, train dudes to go do bad things with what it is that I'm sharing with them. And the other part of this, of why the leadership portion and whatnot is important, is, if you think about it, like when you did martial arts, as a kid, it was the more you did the martial arts, the less you felt like you needed to get into street fights and fights at school. In most cases, for me as well, like doing, I got in a lot more fights, and as I started Thai boxing, and the better I got at Thai boxing, the less street fights I wanted to get into, because I had less to prove. Because it's like, dude, I will crush this guy. I don't need to prove it to anyone. Everyone knows. You know what I mean? So it kind of stabilizes, and it can start to calm people again. With that resolve. But we need to build that balance, because the reality is, in many cases, the best thing is to know what to do, but not have to do it, and you get into a situation, it's like, I could totally take this dude out, but I don't need to do it. So that gets to that point where you can kind of ignore some things, you can pick and choose, and just to grow yourself personally, because most of the time you're not going to have to use this stuff, so a lot of the things, the lessons that you're learning through the way, you could apply it to your business. You could apply it to, sales teams or whatever, as far as the psychology and the mentality stuff goes. It doesn't have to actually be a direct translation into kinetic force, translated into your daily life and winning in other aspects of your life, not just in a fight.
Perfect. All right. I had the opportunity to come up and train with you privately for about 2.5, 3 days. And not only did I notice that you're a great shooter, you're in phenomenal shape, and you study martial arts, and martial art called Nauka. Am I pronouncing that right?
Nauka.
Nauka. Okay. Can you tell us about Nauka? And out of all the martial arts out there, even Muay Thai, why did you choose that one?
So Nauka is a Serbian-based fight system. It's based off of old battlefield fighting with swords and axes and knives and all that, shields. And I know a lot of people will be like, what the hell does that have to do with current day, fighting? We're not fighting with axes and knives, Rich. But going into this with Nauka, I'll just say that I already had an extensive background in Thai boxing. I'd been an instructor for Krav and Kapap and trained in Sistema, trained in close quarters defense and the Dwayne Dieter system, and a bunch of other systems through the SEAL teams, through bringing in other instructors and training, and really just searching for a lot of different things to where I could just take a little bit from here and there to for what would work best for me, or just because I enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And constantly just chasing that knowledge. So when I came across Nauka, I already had a pretty good background in, martial arts and combatives. But when I found the Nauka system, one of the things that I liked about it is it seemed like it connected the dots for a lot of the other systems that I was already doing. You know what I mean? So when Nauka's covering the jiu-jitsu side, or like you're grappling, they're approaching it from everything is thought of to have a weapon in your hand, where you go do your jiu-jitsu or you're doing Thai boxing. I know old school traditional Muay Thai used to fight with their sword and a sheath in your hands, but the ring fighting doesn't really teach that anymore, and you really have to find someone really special to find where that's taught, because it's kind of like a lost art. So gotcha. The whole context of Nauka is it's gross motor movements that are used for thousands of years of warfare. For thousands of years, we've used swords, axes, knives, shields, and the motions that they use, these big gross motor movement things, it's so simplistic, but yet really effective. And all the movements are designed with the idea that you're going to have a weapon in your hand, regardless if that's a flashlight, a pistol, a knife, a bottle, a rock, anything that you can grab. We call it upgrading your strikes. So anything you can put in your hands, to make your strikes more devastating. So the nice thing with it is we now go back to, okay, in a lot of these other techniques, using like a prey mantis kung fu concept, to where when you strike, you do an open palm, so you don't break your hands. But now you go, okay, well, you're training your muscle memory every time you go to strike to open your hands. Well, what happens when you're holding your flashlight under stress? When you go to do your strike, you've trained that muscle memory to relax the palm and open the palm, versus locking down on the grip so you don't lose your weapon. When you're doing your clinching, if you're always bringing your hands together in your clinch work and your grappling work, and you're locking your hands together because it's a strong grip, well, how do you do that when you're holding a knife? How do you do that when you're holding your flashlight? Are you going to lose so a lot of the stuff was just like, okay, there's a lot of similarities in the things that I've learned, but now it kind of just connected the dots to, how do I do all this with a weapon in my hand? And the movements and the strikes were just very simplistic, that I felt if I was going to go teach this is something that I could go do a course with you or a seminar. And at the end of it, you could be like, I can remember that. And I still have to practice it, but I could repeat that tomorrow. And that was one of the things when I trained Aikido for a year. Aikido was amazing for the guys who were like the black belts in Aikido. But it was like, dude, if you tried Aikido in a street fight in the first 10 years that you're doing it, you're going to get your ass kicked. Right. Once you've got like 10 years, now you can throw people around and do like really wild stuff. But in that first 10 years, unless you got 10 years to commit. So in that 10 years, what fight system are you going to use if you can't use the system that you're training? Because it's so technical. So that's where I like how raw this is, and how direct, and it's just, straight to the point and super aggressive. And when you're doing it, you're like, it should be more complex than this. And Coach Beck's, it's like, no, it shouldn't. Because under stress and under pressure, and when you're tired, like, you don't want complex things. You want something that's simple, it's going to work. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to work. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So that was kind of why I've been teaching that, because it's just been a very good program, very good system that people can connect with very quickly. And it's training of what weapon system you're using. And it's movements that are ingrained in our DNA that we've been doing for thousands of years. Yeah, it's a really cool system. I'm surprised it's so under the radar.
That it is, because I've never heard of it until I spoke to you when I was up at the ranch, and it's really piqued my interest. And I would like to get with you and talk to you more about it, when we get together.
For sure.
Well, moving on, and again, you're in great shape for what you do. I believe we have to be for what we do with our businesses. I watch you on the website. I watch your YouTube channel. Tell me, and this was I sat there like this with my jaw down, dropped. Tell me about this underwater kettlebell workout.
Yeah, so the underwater kettlebell stuff, again, anything you do in the water, you have to be really careful with. So I usually don't do it by myself, but so I have a kettlebell program, and I do a lot of work that's with the kettlebells, obviously in the gym, dry land, all that kind of stuff. And then there's different times where we do different things with the kettlebells, where one, we might go outside the gym and do some kettlebell juggling, where you throw the kettlebell up, flip it and all that kind of stuff. And it works your time and your acceleration and deceleration. The kettlebell's higher up in the air. When you catch it, it's got more momentum that you have to redirect the energy, right? So then kind of going off of that also, sometimes we'll go out to the freshwater springs or a pool or the ocean, and we'll do the kettlebells in the water. And with that, it's just, when you do a Turkish get up with a kettlebell underwater, it's not nearly as heavy, because obviously the water disperses a lot of the weight in relation to the size kettlebell. But in that, you're working all these different muscle groups that you normally wouldn't work to do the same Turkish get up, because you've lost a lot of the resistance of the gravity. You know what I mean? Now that you're underwater. And we'll do different breath hold exercises with the kettlebell. We'll do different, exercises where you're doing the push press. For example, you might come into a deep squat and you're in like shoulder, elbow, deep water, and you go all the way down in deep squat and you do like a push press overhead with the kettlebell, so you have the resistance of the water. So it just mixes up the routine a little bit and gives people a different flavor. One of the things that we used to do at one of the springs is a very specific exercise, where here in Florida, one of the springs, Wakaiva, has this big crack in the ground that goes down about 12, 15 feet. And we used to go there with the kettlebell, and you'd step off the edge. Like, you can stand, the water is like waist deep where you are. And then there's this freshwater spring, and basically you step off the edge and you just ride the kettlebell down to the bottom. And then we'd walk through the crack to where it gets narrow. And then you would climb up the wall holding the kettlebell, and just do this breath hold drill. And we do that with like a 55 pound kettlebell or whatever the weight you want to do. But that was always like a cool exercise, that it was one that didn't take very long to do, but for people who've never done breath hold drills or anything, or didn't do a lot of that, it was super scary. You know what I mean? Being down in this crack, and it's like, you could always just drop it and come up to the surface, and then we'll swim down and try to get it. But but again, working some of the breath hold drills. And again, just to throw this out there, always be careful doing breath hold drills, especially if you're going to go to depth. You don't want to have a shallow water blackout. But it's just another angle on the training, just putting another flair into it, and working some of the breath hold and different types of resistance.
Nice. Now, people who don't have access to bigger bodies of water, and they have a backyard pool, would they be able to do something like this in that pool?
Yeah, they could. You could do a lot of this stuff in the low end. If you wore sneakers, or you might be able to do it barefoot. If you have a tile pool, it might be hard. But if you want to put a mask on, you could do like a farmer's carry and walk down the ramp of the pool into the deep end and walk up the ramp up
Right.
to the top. I would just say be careful in the case of when you're in your pool. If you drop the kettlebells in the pool, depending on the type of bottom you have, you don't want to rip or crack the pool.
it.
So I would say if you were going to do that in a pool, never drop the kettlebells. You would squat down and place them on the ground and then move forward. But anytime you do anything like that, we're going to be underwater. If you're going to do the exercises in the low end and just do like the Turkish get-ups and the push press and all that, and where you're breaking the surface each time to get a breath before you come back down, not a big deal. But anytime you're going to do any breath hold work, always have someone else there with you who knows how to do CPR, and never have both of you doing the underwater drill at the same time. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
Always someone there to watch, because you don't want to have a shallow water blackout and drown.
Absolutely. Okay. Sounds good.
I do those exercises. We call it the funky chicken. So whenever you're doing the exercise and you start getting that little thing in your throat where you do the
right.
little shake, we would, in the SEAL teams, we'd call it the funky chicken. I don't know what the technical name is, right? When you get to the funky chicken, you still got like another 30 to 45 seconds, legit. But because that's your body's response of when your oxygen level gets to a certain like low point, which you still have way more left. But when you get to a certain low point, that's like the automatic response that your body goes, hey, it's time to breathe. Right? But whenever I'm doing this stuff for the breath holds, because we're not trying to set world records or whatever. So when I get to the point where my body kicks in and does the funky chicken little burp, then that's when I come up. So I don't push it much past that. You know what I mean? And I would just say to people that train to get that spot further. Don't train to get the very end breath hold further, especially when you're doing something with exertion where you're moving weight or anything like that, because you're burning up oxygen way faster than you normally would if you were just doing a stationary breath hold. So just to throw that out there. Safety.
Perfect.
Stuff.
Great. With people who want to come train with you, and people in general, I mean, I think we know that, especially in today's world, that people are kind of self-conscious about training, whether it be, going to the gym, people who go to a commercial gym to train on their own. They don't have a personal trainer. They guys or gals want to go to martial arts class. They're kind of self-conscious. They don't want to be that guy or that gal that looks, awkward. And also with firearms training, with new people coming up, especially today in today's world, everybody's buying guns. And they want to get training, and some people get very limited training, and they stop at that. And then I know you probably do. I know I do. Get people calling saying, "Hey, I have a gun. I want to learn how to use it. I'm scared to death of it, but I need to know how to use it." With these people who have these self-conscious issues of stepping out onto the range in a class with you, or stepping into your gym and learning some martial art or a fitness program with you, how do you control that for them? What advice do you give them? How do you work with a client that's that way?
Okay, yeah. So I would say the first things first, and if this is the people, like one part of this, you could be talking to the coaches, and one part of this, you could be talking to the individual who's experiencing those feelings. I would say first off, just speaking out from a coach's standpoint to the students, and the coaches can kind of take a little tip off of this, is if you're coming to train with me, it's not about me. It's about you. So people, like, I literally had this question posed to me last week, and they're like, I just don't want to waste your time. I'm not that good. And I'm like, how are you wasting my time? They're like, well, I'm not an experienced shooter, and, you're Navy SEAL. And I'm like, if you're coming here to train, my background that might be why you're seeking me out. But if you knew everything I knew, why would you come train with me? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't need to come
Makes
train
sense.
with me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so from that standpoint, my job as a coach is to meet you where you're at, study what you're doing, study where the breakdown is, study where the limitations are, and then to derive a program or a plan on how we get you one step further. And it doesn't have to be that you leave an expert marksman in one day, but the goal is that we get you to be better than you were when you showed up, and understand that that's okay. Just like any weight loss plan, you're not going to drop, okay, you want to lose 100 pounds? Let's just be real with each other. It's not going to happen in 1 week. You know what I mean? Like 100 pounds, that's a process. This is going to take months. This might take a year. And you have to be okay with that and understand that you can't look at the scale on day one and determine whether, you've arrived yet or not. Like, it's a process, just like anything else. So if you understand that, then cool, come, let's see where you're at. And let's work with you right where you are, and we'll bring you to the next level, and you're going to have fun. And don't get frustrated, because you understand that it's not a one-day thing. This is a process. So by the end of the day, you should be shooting a little bit better, and you should feel more comfortable with the weapons handling and having a better understanding. So even if the skill isn't better, your understanding should be better. Your mentality should be better, because those are something that you can kind of learn right there on the spot. But a technical skill or something like that to execute the act of, and most people who come out here, they'll be shooting way better in one day. But I'm just saying, like, it's a process, just like anything else, a martial art, a fitness program, weight loss, everything. It takes time. And one of the things that is so frustrating to me about the firearms community with a lot of these guys is, and this, I see this in the gym too, where they're like, hey, look at that fat ass over there. They need to get in the gym. They're being lazy. And then they see them in the gym, like, huh, look at that fat ass on the treadmill. And you're like, dude, when you call them a fat ass on the treadmill, you realize, like, you were making fun of them before because they weren't in the gym. And now they're in the gym and you're making comments about how they're going to break the treadmill. You know what I mean? And whatnot. And it's like, you can't have it you can't have it both ways. They're here. They're making a first step forward. You don't think that they know that, you don't think that they're insecure about the way they look and how heavy they are when you got all these like Instagram model people like taking selfies of them, you know what I mean? And these bodybuilders and everyone, you don't think they know that shit? Like, come on, man. Like, cut them some slack. They're here. They're in the gym. They took the step.
Yeah, they're taking the step. They're making the effort. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think it's important for the community, to welcome these new people in, because that's the same thing happens with the shooting world. You go to the shooting range, and the people who work at the shooting range, not everyone, but there's a lot of people at the shooting ranges that just talk to you like you're an idiot all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything you do, it's like, you're going to shoot someone, you're going to shoot yourself, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And people like walk on eggshells, and the whole experience at the gun range is just so, high tension and micromanaged. And I get it. You need to be safe, but there's a way to communicate to people where you can keep everything safe without, being so overbearing that you totally kill the person's experience and make them never want to come back. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are like, I tried to go to the shooting range. I just did not like the atmosphere there. The people were really freaking rude, and they made me feel like I was stupid. Like, obviously I was a new shooter. I didn't know what I was doing, and then the reaction for most people would be like, suck it up. Don't be a pansy,
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I get it, but that's not productive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So again, like that's, I think I'm off on a tangent right now, but
No, that's good. That's good. No, and this is good to hear, because I've experienced on the range over my 30 some years of with law enforcement, military law enforcement, and even now as a civilian, taking classes from because I like the continuous education. I need to keep learning, but I've come across the same thing, and I feel it's important that the way you communicate to people, especially in that atmosphere, it's really important. It's really important to get people to understand that, like you said, it's not going to happen in a day. And while you're out here with me, let's be safe, but let's relax a little bit so you can suck up the knowledge, a little bit of the knowledge, and you're not stressed out missing a lot of the important points.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things too is, I know for me as a personal trainer, like when I transitioned out of the Navy and I first started personal training, I was freaking everyone out because I was way too intense. And again,
Yes.
At that point, it was about me. It was like, hey, this is how awesome I am. That's why you should train with me. You know what I mean? And the attitude was completely wrong. And what happened is I had a few clients that were like the hardcore people who were into that.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And like some of them wanted to be cops or they wanted to be going to military. So they were like gung-ho, like younger guys, maybe college age, and they wanted to go into the military. Or a couple of them were like professional athletes that I was training, and they knew that. But the majority of people, I was freaking them out because I was just too intense. And I started to very quickly realize, like, hey, dude, the job isn't about me. It's not about what I can do, because it doesn't matter if I can do this crazy fitness thing if my clients are trying to lose 10 pounds and they can't run a mile. So like there's this huge gap between, and I very quickly shifted gears, in talking with some business guys who gave me some recommendations about the way I was communicating. And I started diving into the self-help books. And all of a sudden I was reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Art of Dealing People, The Art of the Deal. I'm reading all these different, self-help books. And the other trainers were laughing at me because I'd show up to work and they're reading like the fitness manuals and I'm reading, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Sure.
And one of the trainers asked me like, dude, why are you reading that? I'm like, so I can be better with my clients. And they're like, well, shouldn't you be reading something that actually helps you train them better? I'm like, well, I know how to do a push-up. It's pretty simple how to teach someone to do a push-up. And it was like, what happens when they figure out how to do a push-up? Do they need you anymore? Like, or how do you know what I mean? Like, how do you communicate? Because a lot of these trainers were talking to people about how to do exercises, and you would see they were like, some of the trainers who had master's degrees, they were talking to the clients in medical terms, like your gluteus maximus, blah, 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 like putting all these technical terms in I would watch the clients sit there and talk with them, and they'd have no idea what the hell they were talking about. And then they'd be like, your glute, like your butt, right? Anyway, it's not a big deal. Let me give you the fucking, the everyday person term,
Sure.
and then you'd watch the case and they'd be like, are you trying to make me feel stupid? Kind of thing. So I would talk to the clients and it just like, I saw that and I would see the reaction. So then when I was talking to the clients, I'd be like, yeah, dude, you're going to use your butt here, and I might like point to which section, but I'm not going to name all the technical names from the manual because they don't know those names. So it doesn't communicate right. Like I'm going to say words. It's like me talking another language to you. And then, oh, you don't know that word. Oh, it's okay. When they already felt like they were already embarrassed to be in the gym. And now and insecure about being in the gym. And then I just am making them feel stupid because they don't know the words. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Things of not only meeting them where they're at from a technical standpoint, but also an ability to communicate to them to make them feel, and I'm not trying to be like too hypersensitive here, but I'm telling you, like, it goes a long way. It goes a long way when someone comes there, they relax, right? That's like when you came here and we did the muzzle discipline drills, right? I do the muzzle discipline drills so I can study every single person. For the people listening who don't know what that is like, we do this drill where we have either dummy guns or we have our guns clear and safe with the slides locked to the back. So it's in a safe position, no ammo. And we do some drills to where you need to move between people and move around people and never have the barrel cross someone where you aimed the gun at them accidentally. So you're moving around and it gets your firearms dexterity and your peripheral vision and all this stuff tuned in. So if you were to move in a crowd or move around your family, you don't accidentally aim the gun at anyone you didn't intend to shoot. So in that, it's like an icebreaker. We have everyone do that, and I can study the group and see how people move. Like, are you even comfortable? Are you tripping over your feet? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is your grip okay when you aim? Are you even looking at the sights? You can learn so much from the people in the class in that drill. And Then from there, it kind of sets the stage of which direction I go with the training. And we keep it's like an icebreaker, and we keep it really, you were there, you experienced it, but you got to have a way to communicate with the clients in a way that they're going to understand to meet them and open them up a little bit. And I think that's one of the areas that a lot of the guys from our backgrounds, coming from like this type A personality background and then transitioning into the instructor, you know what I mean? Like, I've had other SEALs go, "Hey, Rich, that's not how we were teaching it at the team." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm not training Navy SEALs, dude." And they're like, "Yeah, okay." I'm like, because one guy asked me, like, "Is that what they taught at TRADET, which is the training detachment for SEAL teams?" And I'm like, "No, but at TRADET, you're teaching all people who are already SEALs. You're teaching 30 dudes who already have been on deployments, who are already expert pistol, expert rifle, snipers, have, years of experience doing CQB and all this kind of stuff." And it's like, they're not going to be the same. These are civilians who are going to be working in a completely different atmosphere, who have very limited training, right? So everything's going to be different. They're not even on the same freaking playing field. Like, but if you're coming into the firearms industry, or you're coming into the, fitness industry or martial arts, coming from, elite level, and then you go to train with your new clients and you're trying to train them like you're training at the elite level still, you're going to blow them out. You're going to miss most of these clients because there's this huge communication and capability gap.
Yes. Agreed. And in talking about that training with your muzzle discipline drills and some of the things that I've gone through with you up there, one of the drills we did was in your 360-degree range. And you asked me to run that particular drill for you, and you videotaped it, and you posted it. And some of these guys that are out there in the world, these keyboard warriors, I guess is the known that we call them, went kind of ballistic on what this drill was, on this muzzle discipline drill and shooting steel. How do you handle people that are like that? I mean, how do you approach those who don't understand your form of training?
Yeah, see, some of those posts are what I call troll bait. And it's like, I know after 15 years of doing this, it's like, I know when I post this, I'm going to catch a world of shit.
So going in.
I know going in. I know. I mean, sometimes there's posts that surprise me that get a whole bunch of pushback, and I'm like, I didn't see that coming. But then there's ones you just there and you're looking at it, and you're like, you're looking at the post button or the OK button. And you're like, all right, here it comes. Get ready. So anytime you're breaking the norm of what the standard is, so anytime you want to try to do something, everyone says think outside the box until you do something that's thinking outside the box.
That's outside the box, right?
Well, as soon as you do it, they're like, hey, you need to get back in the box, man. Like, you can't be doing that. Like, if you did that on my range, you'd get kicked off. So I'm like, yeah, that's why I built my own range. Yep.
There you go.
There you go. But that's also why I don't do courses that have 30 people in them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I prefer to do courses of 8 people or less. And it's not because I can't sell tickets for 20 to 30 people. It's I don't feel with 20 to 30 people, the stuff that I want to teach and where I want to go with the training, you have to keep it very baseline and regimented when it's 20 to 30 people. When we have 8 people or less, we can really start like fine tuning things and adjusting things on the fly for the people who are in the class. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And guys get more
Yes.
reps
Mhm.
and do things that are a little bit more dynamic, you know, because even if you had 20 guys in the class and let's say the drill to do it, you know, from start to finish with, all right, guys, you know, bringing the next dude up or whatever. Let's say the interval took, you know, 10 minutes, you know, you
Right.
got like over 2 hours worth of time to run the whole class through one drill. So it's just, but with that being said, like the fact of the matter that people have the time to sit on the internet every night and just troll other people's accounts, like I feel bad for them. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, while you're here armchair quarterbacking what I'm doing, I'm getting ready for the next group that's coming in and I'm building my business. I'm impacting people. You know, we're doing a lot of great things. I don't have time to worry about what a critic thinks. You know, I'll take my constructive criticism from the people who actually come here and do the training. And if you came here personally and did the training and said, Rich, you know, I don't really agree with that drill, or, you know, even this is what happened with like the O course. Like I'm building that obstacle course and I've literally had people come in and go, Rich, that thing you're creating is way too dangerous. And like, there's been like 3 or 4 obstacles that I've had to change because I get carried away and I make the obstacle like way too hardcore. Or it's just one of those things that if someone actually did fall, like, dude, someone's going to get really hurt and you're going to lose your house. And you're like, okay, yeah, sorry. So we would adjust things. So like, if people are here and they see things in context, they've been to one of my seminars, they've heard me speak in person, you know, et cetera, and they have constructive criticism, I'm very open to taking it. But for people who have never been here and they're getting a snapshot, except, you know, but again, I'm controlling those snapshots, but I'm giving like little teasers to be intriguing too, because we can do things out here that no one will let you do at your other shooting ranges. And there's a lot of people who are going to look at that and they're going to go, that's too dangerous. You shouldn't do that. And there's other people who are going to look at that and go, I've never been allowed to do that at my shooting range. I want to do that there with you in a safe way, controlled environment, but I would do that. So you're going to get both. You can't have one without the other.
Right. I'll tell you, Lee, my wife now, she didn't shoot, but she was there on that 360 range when you had her jump in. She still talks about it and how great it was, you know, and
that's funny because people were complaining about that. And my response to that is, so we had a drill where John and his wife were here and we were doing a drill in a vehicle to where she's in the passenger seat, John's in the driver's seat. There's a target on the passenger seat side, and he has to get her out of the way while they're in the vehicle and shoot out the passenger window. You know, and people would look at that and go, Rich, that's way too freaking dangerous. And I'm like, well, John's already carrying a gun, and there's crazy things happening. We want the very first time that she ever has John shoot a gun right next to her in a vehicle to be when an attack actually goes down, or do you want to do it in a controlled, layered process where we baby step it bit by bit? Each time we do it, we add one more little layer to it. So then where we're doing stuff to where he's grabbing her, ducking her down, shooting behind her at the target out her side of the car, jumping out of the vehicle, having her climb through the vehicle, hide behind the tire, and they're doing this bounding and communicating with one another on how to handle this situation. And that's maybe not be how the actual attack ever happens, but now they've built a layer of trust with one another and some competency with one another. And now it's not the first time that they've ever done anything like that. So they're a little bit ahead of the game, you know, and most people say that's too dangerous to do. And in my opinion, I'm like, it's too dangerous not to do. And if you do it in a way, you can make it very, very safe. People are seeing the very last image of it, not realizing that you guys did that 20 times, and each time we added one more little aspect to it. Each time we went to where you could do it safely in full speed, you know, and like we're holding people back, and there's a way to do it. We don't just walk out there and be like, yeah, man, shoot out the passenger window while your wife's sitting next to you. Like, you know, like there's a calculated process to it, you know.
Yes,
and,
there is.
But if you guys are already carrying, if people are already carrying every day, and there are roadblocks and there are riots, and there are people who are getting yanked out of their cars in the cities. Like, to not train for that and not prepare for that, I think is just as dangerous, if not more.
Agreed. All right, I get a couple more questions for you.
Yep.
On your, I watched the video that you did. You were in a wooded area on a walkway, like a little bridge. You had your dog with you, and
Yes.
you were talking about there's a quote fake Christian talk that you did, and how it made you feel, and because kind of doing a shift here from the training and the violence stuff and all that stuff that we do, but it's something that really opened my eyes, which I really liked, and it's something that I picked up from you when I was training with you also, that I really liked about you. And in listening to the story, that you had an interaction with a mother of a Marine. And how did that help you with helping post-traumatic veterans?
Yeah, so the story that you're talking about is in reference to us working with an organization that helps with veteran suicide prevention. And through a long stream of things, the video is on YouTube if people want to watch it. So I'm not going to re-talk the whole story. But in that, it was, like divine intervention. There's no way that all these stars could have aligned just accidentally. And people, I used to say before I got in tuned with my faith, I used to say like, oh man, it just happened to work out that way, or, crazy enough, and now I look at it and I go, this is basically like divine intervention. There's no way that could just happen like that. And, helping some of these veterans with the suicide prevention and stuff, one of the things that it does, it takes the focus off of you and puts the focus on helping. Like, we got to handle our own shit, don't get me wrong, but there's something to be said for, in your own little pity party. My grandfather used to say, if you're having a pity party, like you're not helping enough other people.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you have time to feel sorry for yourself, you need to go help some other people, because whatever you have going on, there's always people who have it worse. And if you think about it, you actually have it pretty good. And if you go help some other people, it'll help you realize, and when you help someone else, it helps you get out of that funk, because you're investing in someone else and their happiness. And through that, you can start to gain some happiness for yourself. So with helping some of these veterans come through the program, and that program was Operation Restored Warrior that I was referencing in that video. And it's a great program, and it's made a huge impact on hundreds and hundreds of veterans at this point, helping them not go that route and make that mentality switch and avoid making those really bad decisions.
With the program, like me, I watched this video of you talking about this, and if somebody says, hey, I really want to get involved in this, how can they get involved with this program with you?
Yeah, so this program, I'm an advocate for them. I'm not officially part of Operation Restored Warrior. I'm just a big believer in what they do, and for years I've been helping raising money and awareness for them through different events. The organization's called Operation Restored Warrior, and you can go to operationrestoredwarrior.org and see what they're doing. They also go by ORW, Operation Restored Warrior. So sometimes I forget if that link still works, ORW.org. But if you look up Operation Restored Warrior, then you'll find them. Great group, and out of Colorado, and they do their program is called a Drop Zone. They run them across the country.
Okay, perfect. All right, last question. How can people find out about you? Where can they go to see what you do? And how can they sign up for classes?
So they can go to our website, fullspectrumwarriors.com. And at fullspectrumwarriors.com, you have different options for how you can train with us. One is you can set up a private training experience, like that's what you did. Mm-hmm. So you can do a private training experience. You come out here, you can stay on the property. You know, we'll do customized training program for whatever it is that you want to achieve or focus on. The other one we have is you can go on the website and check out upcoming training events, and you can come to a public training event that you can just sign up for, and the calendar and the schedule is there. Or you can subscribe to the Full Spectrum Warrior University and train with us online. And we're constantly adding new training modules to the library there, where we kind of go in a lot more in depth into the training than we do for, let's say, a YouTube video or Instagram video, where it's like, we got to fit this into a 1 minute, or on YouTube, I know that people only pay attention for like 3 minutes or so. So in this, we go way deeper into all the specifics on the topics that we cover. And so it's very thorough training on there. So those are 3 ways on the website. You can also just email us, or if you want to follow us on our Instagram page, it's Full Spectrum Warrior USA. The YouTube channel is Rich Graham. And again, if you just go to fullspectrumwarriors.com, you can click the links to all our social media pages there. It's probably easier just to do it that way.
Perfect. Great. All right, Rich. Hey, I appreciate your time. It's very informative. Diving in a little bit deeper than I had a chance to when we were up there face to face. I will be seeing you again probably in a few weeks. And,
yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Again, I'm trying to round up some people down here to bring up with me. So I'm working on that now. But we'll see you in a few weeks, give or take the amount of people I bring up with me. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.